Good morning. It's after 11 a.m. I woke up and decided to start editing my videos. I really want to get one up today for the first 3 days. I hate putting the first one up and not these, but I'm realizing there's a lot more clips now that I decided to do these individual vlogs. I'm hungry because I haven't eaten yet, and so I want a smoothie. Especially since today's Instagram challenge is to take a picture with the drink that fuels you. And I guess for me, my go-to is a smoothie, and I'm not in the mood for a berry smoothie. I want chocolate banana smoothie, but I need almond milk, and I also need more bananas to start ripening. Let's go to the grocery store. I'm kind of torn with how I feel today. My instinct is to try and avoid working when I know I should be. I need to study, like really need to study. But one thing that I have managed to solidify is this feeling that weekends are weekends, weekdays are weekdays, where I don't try and work almost ever on the weekends. If I don't have like a strict deadline, a strict set of rules of what's to do on a Monday, then I won't feel the urge to do something on the weekend, which is a good and bad. If I need to get something done like this, or I need to just push myself to study more, even though it doesn't have to be done, they won't know if I don't unless they watch this. I'm hoping they won't. But my point is that it's good for my mental health to have that line drawn, but at the same time, it's bad for days like these when I need to make an exception. Like I haven't even gone for a bike ride today because it feels like, oh, I can go anytime because it's not a work day, which I know is absurd in this pandemic quarantine that I'm in, where I'm just always at home. But that's life in quarantine, for me at least. But let's go to the grocery store. Let's enjoy the day and get me some almond milk so I can have me a smoothie because I'm starving. Houston, we have a problem. I can't find my headphones. It's the only pair I have that are worth anything. I mean, they're not even worth that much, like $30 from Google. But I can't leave without my headphones. I'm not going anywhere if I can't listen to an audiobook while I go. What am I, an animal? I gotta find these. It's gotta be somewhere in here. They were in my pocket. I'm back from the grocery store. I decided to treat myself. It was this or vegan cheesecake, and this is way cheaper, and also still less calories. I love bread and those delicacies that I can't really buy because they don't last. So, finished my vlog. That's actually not that bad. For days 3 through 5. It took me a good long while. It's 7 p.m. for God's sakes. Can you believe that? I still have 3.5 hours left on the audiobook. I have a 5-hour audiobook tomorrow to listen to, but I haven't done any work today because I chose to do that vlog, and I still want to clean. Still gonna make my smoothie, which I also just want a smoothie because I ended up eating a lot of bread. Did I tell you that? I'm pretty sure I did. Look at all that chocolate. So much deliciousness. The drink that gives me energy. That looks like he got shaved. I think because he had a hair knot there. I was wondering what it was. It was pretty damn bad. It was about time that he got it shaved off. He's so beautiful. This is my landlord's cat. He is great. I am a little allergic, but as long as I wash my hands and don't cuddle too much, I'm okay. So my phone needs to charge, and I can't listen to the audiobook when it's charging. So I think I'm going to spend an hour playing Werewolf online. Hopefully it doesn't take up my whole entire night. It could. I'm not kidding. I gotta get in and out. One game, I swear. I made the mistake of playing Werewolf. Now it's 11:30 and I haven't done any more reading. I'm fucked. Probably gonna pull an all-nighter because I want to finish this goddamn book tonight. But Werewolf is so much fun, I forgot how much fun it is. I think I called this a star yesterday. It's Mars. It's Mars. Good morning. Wait a second, it's 3:30. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I haven't really filmed much today. I haven't wanted to. I spent a big chunk of the morning trying to take a picture for my Reading Rush. It looks tacky as hell. I love the concept, but it wasn't as practical as I thought it would be. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. I get through most of my book. I have like half an hour left at double speed. So that's something, right? But I still haven't even started fitting figures. If it wasn't for my exam, I would just say it's fine. I'll get through it. I'll make myself listen to it for the next 5 hours. And maybe I'd finish it, but I can't afford to do that. I'm gonna try and start it and finish it after the reading rush is over, because I don't want to go throughout the end of the month and not finish it. I'll give us an epilogue in this vlog, especially since today has had no filming. It's a very hot day today. It's 86. The low was like in the mid 70s. It's made me not want to go for a bike ride, mixed with the fact that I'm also just being lazy. But since it's after 3, I think the peak of the day should be past, so it should start to cool down. So I'm going to clean up these books and maybe listen to the rest of this book, and then I'm going to try and clean up and go for a bike ride to go to the park and do some work there. I did a little bit of work today so far working on my presentation. There were a few changes I needed to make, and I pretty much made them. It was pretty easy, but I need to practice those, and I also need to do more studying of facts. So far I've been spending most of my time studying Titan related facts. Titan is the moon that I study of Saturn. Just to make sure I have a good broad understanding of Titan, because I know I'm going to ask that, but I haven't focused heavily on the models, or the model that I'm using, which I need to study that more closely over the next couple days. I've been hesitant just because I recognize that I think I have a pretty good understanding of how my model works. That says I need to refine that and also dig deep for these hidden details that I might be missing that I don't know, so that I'm prepared for that. I have 3 committee members. That includes my advisor, who studies Titan as well. So she'll ask me Titan questions, the others will not. And I need to be prepared for their questions. I think I can do this. Like, the practical side of me says, I think I can do this. And then the other side of me says, Josh, you can't do this. Look at where you came from. You're not built for this life. This isn't meant for you, okay? You can't do this, Josh. You're gonna fucking fail. And if you don't fail, then clearly the system is flawed. I hate that I think like this. And the sad thing is I'm proving myself true. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I sit here, waste my time, do these things. It's not really a waste of time, but it's also not studying. Let's be realistic. Before I started reading, I started YouTube, I found other ways to waste my time. It's not that YouTube is the distraction here. YouTube is just the current fad for me, and hopefully a lasting one. I mean, I said the same thing about biking when I started biking like 6 years ago. I'm going to do stuff, and I'm going to try and give you some film stuff. Let's, if I haven't given you a flyby of these books, I'll do that for you. I'll show you my final product. I made like a short 30-second clip of what I did. I put books down the floor, try to color scheme them by the planets, and then I photoshopped it to have them on top of a star background, so like they're floating in the stars. And then I have a tick mark to say how far they are from the sun, which if you're a scientist, you understand that. But if you're not, you may not know that the Earth is 1 AU away, Saturn is 10 AU away, and Neptune is 30. I'm gonna go and do shit. More of my delicious reading fuel. Num num num. I'm now out of frozen bananas though. I have to wait at least a week for mine to ripen. Are you curious how many I buy? I know it's a lot of fucking bananas, but I put them in a big crate and they freeze and they last me for a long time. But as you can see, I eat a lot of chocolate smoothies, so it's necessary. So I finished the Relentless Moon, and obviously I loved it. I loved it. I definitely love it more than the second one. And to be clear, I love the second one. But part of me wants to say I like it more than the first one. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because the big event, the big asteroid or impact that destroyed the climate, or is destroying the climate, was in book 1. That was arguably the most intense and exciting part of all the books, like as far as like plot-driven narrative. Nevertheless, I found this book very, very good. Part of that is the character. And not to say Elma isn't amazing, because I do love Elma. I mentioned her in my media freakout tag. But Nicole, I'm here for. Nicole has a lot of the same traits as Elma, in the sense that she is a strong, independent woman who is also a fighter pilot, so she is very qualified in what she's doing. She did get her job, at least in part, because of the political position of her husband. But that doesn't mean she didn't still deserve the job. It just meant that she was able to overcome some of the bigotries that were in place against women in the system. But of course, she's proved herself in this book and why she's worth it. And I love it because the risks are very real. I mean, to be clear, this isn't The Martian. It's not that level of excitement. But I still think it's a thoroughly amazing book because it's a different kind of science book. I mean, sure, she creates a narrative that is that has conflict and that has a plot. I mean, just to say there's a threat that has to be solved, but it's all, I feel like, grounded in a very realistic outcome. Like, say, The Martian is largely realistic in a lot of ways. Will the wind blow over a rocket? No, the wind is not that. It can't be that strong on Mars. But like, that's not the point. My only point here is that it's just a different type of focus on the type of process. I feel like I'm not explaining this very well. The process of us going to space and creating colonies, I feel like, regardless of the motivation of how they got there, is really well done. It's the fact that, sure, there's this thing that triggered the drive to go to space. Now that they're here, we have to deal with discrimination in place, but also with just other type of societal conflicts that might begin to arise. And I think Mary Robinette Kowal deals with it really well in a way that's just really, really interesting, while also tying in scientific accuracy wherever she can, as much as she can. And like that said, she worked with a bunch of experts in a range of different fields to make sure that everything she included here was accurate. Everything exciting that happened, she didn't want it to be too dangerous to the point where it's not believable. Not even not believable, but not realistic. Like, if something bad has to happen, she has to make sure with the experts that it happens just the right way, such that not everybody will die, because they are still on the moon and it's not meant for humans, but it can be made for humans. I loved it all around. It was also longer, which I love a good long book personally, and I don't feel like it ever dragged either, which even when I love long books like Stephen King, I recognize there's some drag in there. I still love the drag, but if here I just feel like it's all necessary. It's clear that she had every piece of this book was needed to tell the story, and I thought it was so great. I really hope we get to see Nicole again. I don't know who the protagonist is going to be in the next book. Maybe it'll be a split between the two. How great would that be? Maybe I'll try and get her to tell me in one of the Patreon session things. I'm just excited, and I don't know whether or not my wanting to label this as more so than the first one might just be because it's fresh off my mind, or is it just because it deserves it? I mean, I think it deserves it. So right now I'd put the book like this. I'd put The Calculating Stars, book 1, and then I'd put The Relentless Moon, book 3. And book 2 is hidden, but book 2 would be my third in the slot. I loved book 2. Don't get me wrong. I think it's just, it doesn't feel like it's independent as book 3 did. Book 1 and 2 act really well as a duology. I know I read some people who read this book and they felt like they didn't like it very much, at least a couple reviews, because they hadn't read the first two. I was like, why haven't you read the first two? That's why you don't like it. And then personally, I don't see how someone couldn't like this. I think you could like this, not have read the first two. Not that you should. I think you should read the first two first. They're both amazing. A lot of the book 2, the conflict is human, which makes sense. You have a mission going to Mars. When I say human, I mean like a crew relationship wise, like that's a lot of the focus for book 2. Here we have interrelationships, but we also have this pushback force, this almost like a terrorist organization. It is a terrorist organization. It doesn't want to go to space, which isn't that big of a stretch. If you remember from Contact with Carl Sagan, we made in the movie with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey, there was like a bomber who tried to stop them from building the machine, and like that kind of extremism, religious extremism, isn't that big of a jump in logic. It's very realistic. Don't get me wrong, this terrorist organization exists in book 2 as well. It's just their role isn't essential to the plot. There's a lot of details in book 2 that get expanded on in book 3 as well, where we learn things that we didn't know before. And that's all I'll say is I don't want to spoil it. I know that I talk a lot about the overarching plot of this series, because they're going to space because the Earth is dying. Like, that's the setup. But there's so much more to it that it's why it's worth reading. It's the perfect example of a good story shouldn't depend on blindsiding the reader. It should be able to be developed in a way that's just compelling and amazing, and still have surprises in there, even if you know the overarching plot, which is we're going to space, yay, and we're going to succeed. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be loss along the way. That's how I feel. So I'm going to start Hidden Figures so I can at least provide some feedback for that. And then I'm going to do some studying outside. How does that sound? All in favor, say nothing. All these books, they need to be put away. I'm pretty sure all of those are books I've bought during the pandemic. Just gives you an idea of just how crazy I've gotten. It's 8 o'clock. I waited too long to go to the park to work, so I have to just work at home. So I'm just gonna go in my backyard. That way we can get a change of scenery and I can have a different zone depending on how I feel when I'm working. I might close out the night with a bike ride. As far as Hidden Figures, I started it, not very far, but it starts during the war, during World War II, where she's introducing this idea of women and people of color being included in the war effort as calculators. So it's an interesting start, but it seems fine so far. I don't know how much farther I'm going to get before the day is over. Hopefully finish the book tomorrow while I'm studying, because I still want to go for a bike ride. And if I go for a bike ride today, that's going to be hopefully 3 or 4 hours of the 5-hour audiobook out of the way. I know I should be in more of a rush since this is literally the reading rush, but I suck. Let's go outside. Let's work. Let's study for realsies this time. This vlog is terrible. It's such a beautiful day. So I'm still working, making very slow progress. I got distracted by Twitter, and that's when I came across a post by the Reading Rush apologizing for basically not putting in the effort to support Black voices because they didn't read the book that they chose for their book club, which was written by a Black woman. In those posts, someone shared or made a comment about Instagram cosplays where white people were cosplaying as Black characters. Another comment that was made was about the Juneteenth posting. It's a type of announcement. I'm not sure what it was. It might have been an advertisement, basically just drawing attention away from Juneteenth. And what I hate to say here is that all of this, I did not think too much about it. After Juneteenth, I thought they made a mistake. Things are going to be fine. They just won't do it again. Then I see these cosplay in Instagrams. I don't think I gave it a second thought. Then we get to the book club thing, and they hadn't read the book. And I thought, okay, I understand. I mean, they don't really read well on a TBR. The things I'm trying to say here is I'm not defending them. What I'm trying to say is like, God damn it, I fucked up multiple times here. This is awkward as fuck. But clearly I am still, as hard as I try, I'm still being really fucking complacent, making excuses and associating myself with something and not really being critical about it. And I hate to say this, but this is probably going to be my last year and my first year. I hate this because I know they mean well, but fuck. I'm criticizing myself as much as them here because I was certainly complacent. I'm still going to carry this vlog over till tomorrow because I want to talk to y'all about Hidden Figures. Part of the reason I wanted to read it was the fact that I recognized I was reading a full series by white women that had some discussion of diversity, but it was largely inspired by things like Hidden Figures. There were a lot of reasons why I want to read it, and one reason is that I recognize my own bias can make it very easy not to read it, and I don't want that to happen, which is why I hate that I did not get it in sooner. So yeah, I wanted to mention that. I'm going to keep working. I'm not tired yet. Okay, but I feel like this needed to be said. I'll update you tomorrow after I've read some on my bike ride. It's 12:50. I'm about to join my 1 p.m. meeting to take my comprehensive exam. I decided to include it in this vlog, depending on how it goes, of course, but you'll probably see me in tears, either out of happiness or out of sadness. We will see. Oh, and it's Tuesday the 28th. I did not do anything yesterday. Yeah. I passed with recommendations. I feel like it went pretty good. I'm a little giddy, and I haven't cried. That's a success. I just gotta make sure I don't think about it too much. And now I need to finish the book, because I haven't finished the book yet, but I'm not closing this vlog out until I'm ready to discuss the book with you. See you then. Okay, it's Thursday, way after the reading rush. I know I'm coming to you really late, but as you saw, I had my exam. I passed it. That is exciting. And then I wasn't really feeling much motivation to read, but I'm glad I finished it. I finished Hidden Figures. Overall, it was a good experience. It wasn't a bad book, but I am worried that I read it at the wrong time, as I think it's very apparent in this vlog and my other 2 vlogs for this readathon. I definitely wasn't in the right headspace to read this kind of nonfiction book. It is educational, and while interesting, I don't think it is compelling enough that it really was appropriate for my current state of mind. So I found it very difficult to connect to the story, at least the first 2/3, which coincidentally was the point where it transitioned from being a story about calculators during the war effort to their role in NASA and spaceflight. It was also the point where I had finished my exam. So I was at a point where I could be more relaxed and listening to it. Part of me, for that reason, wants to knock it down. Like, I'm probably going to give it a 4 star. I thought I was giving it 3.5 because it's really interesting and really educational. But the first third of it, I just really struggled with. But I do think it's a personal thing. I'm going to resist the urge and round it up to 4, so even 4 stars, because it really was a fascinating story. I think best of all was how it focused on Katherine Johnson, and in particular, not just her role in the things she did, but her personality, her love for learning, her love for spaceflight, her love for her field and for her work, and the passion that she had, and above all else, her humility in all of that. The fact that she could play such a major role and be so important and so amazing in so many ways, and yet still have so much humility. It really is, like, it gives me goosebumps just talking about it. And so it is a beautiful story. And the part of it is I do think it takes a while to focus in on Katherine, which granted isn't just her story, but in telling multiple stories, it did at first feel sort of disjointed. But again, I would take that as a grain of salt, with recognizing my state of mind when I was reading it. I definitely want to rewatch the movie. I haven't decided if I want to reread the book. If you've read the book and you loved it, let me know, and maybe I'll give it another try. But from what I've heard, others didn't love the book overall. From what I remember from the movie, it focused on their role in NASA and not in the war effort. But I may be remembering that wrong. We'll see when I actually watch it. So if it is focusing just on NASA, it's missing a huge chunk of the story. Like 2/3 of the story, nearly 2/3, is on the war effort leading up to it. And of course, it's important. I understand that. It plays an integral role in setting them up for them being a part of the spaceflight effort. Those are my thoughts on this book. What's more, I can definitely see a lot of the areas where Mary Robinette Kowal used information from this, I assume from this, because there were bits and pieces of it that I could see were reflected in her story. So I definitely still think it works great as a companion to her novels. I keep trying to hold it up, but I can't. My hand is exhausted. Hopefully you can still see me. I can't see the other half of the screen. So let's review what I've read. I read the first short story that preceded all the books. Then I read book 1, Calculating Stars. Then book 2, The Fate of Sky. And book 3, my favorite, at least of this readathon, The Relentless Moon. And the first book counts as a book that starts with D. The Fate of Sky is the book that I touched. The Relentless Moon was my opal, a white grayish color for my birthstone. And then Hidden Figures, even though way late, was my book to movie adaptation that I hadn't seen yet, but I'd seen the movie of. I did not read the short story that was supposed to be the book, the Phobos Experience, which was the entire story set on Mars and its moon Phobos. But the Relentless Moon was set, at least in part, on the moon, so I am going to discount that as a different continent. But overall, it was a good reading rush, especially since, despite me participating and still partially vlogging, I didn't fail. That's really exciting, and I mean it when I say that Dr. Katherine Johnson, I guess I should be referring to her as that, because I don't know if she got her doctorate in her education. I know she got at least her master's, I think, but she definitely has several honorable doctorates. But her story of passion and desire to be a part of her love of her work. Like, I love stories like that. I love hearing and learning about the role of people like that, especially people who have a much harder time in the system than I do as a white cisgender man. Now, before I close out, I want to make another comment or just return to the issues with the Reading Rush. I want to be clear, I don't hate them. I like them both. They're both really seem like really great people. I mean, I support Ariel on Patreon, at least I have up to now. I haven't decided what to do moving forward. I think the problem is just that maybe this readathon, the system is become too much. I mean, it's a big responsibility, and it gets easier to make these kind of mistakes, especially when your team isn't diverse. I understand that Ariel isn't white, but if you're looking to have a completely inclusive system, I think Books on Lala made a great point that they should consider having another co-leader, whatever you call it, on the readathon with Black voices. Ultimately, it's up to them to figure out how they're going to move forward, how they're going to fix this problem. I really hope that beyond just apologizing, that they really take the time to break down the harm they cause. And I still stand by what I said, that I have to be more critical of what I participate in. And I think really just means listening, continuing to listen and listen more to the voices of Black creators and Black booktubers and Black readers. But I didn't bother to look into it. I just thought it seemed minor and I moved on. And that just highlights how I can and should work harder to think about, seek out voices, even these areas that may seem minor to me from my privileged perspective. At this moment, I still stand that I probably won't participate next year, but there's a whole year to go, and it really isn't up to me to decide whether or not what the changes that the Reading Rush makes is enough. Ultimately, it'll be up to the voices of the Black readers and creators on here that I'll end up listening to decide whether or not it has become more inclusive. Until then, there are so many amazing readathons out there. But I'm going to close this out. If you're still here, thank you. I know this is a lot of depressing talk, but it needs to be talked about, right? But hopefully, the scenery, there's a beautiful tree in the background. It really helps. I mean, I know I like it. But until next time, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Stay safe, and goodbye.